In this video, I'm going to name every NFL team's best quarterback ever. Please note, I'm only taking into account what the player did for that franchise. Without further ado, let's begin. Arizona Cardinals, Jim Hart. Tough choice. Carson Palmer had an MVP caliber 2015 season, and Kurt Warner took the team to the Super Bowl, but both weren't there for very long. Every franchise record belongs to Hart, who played 18 years for the club, making 4 Pro Bowls. Team success largely eluded Hart, though, as he went just 0-2 in the playoffs. Cardinals fans are surely hoping Kyler Murray will one day make this question a no-brainer. Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan. An easy choice here. Ryan has thrown for almost 60,000 yards, 367 touchdowns, made 4 Pro Bowls, won an MVP, and came excruciatingly close to winning the franchise its only Super Bowl in 2016. He's kinda boring and will never wow you with his physical gifts, but he gave the team in turmoil its franchise quarterback for a decade and a half. If he had had better defenses throughout his career, no doubt he would have won more. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. It was tough to leave off Joe Flacco, especially after his legendary 2012 playoff run resulted in a ring, but let's be real here, Lamar is a better and more impactful player than Flacco ever was. In 4 years as a starter, he's made 2 Pro Bowls, won an MVP, and established himself as the best running quarterback in NFL history. The only thing eluding Lamar at this stage is playoff success, and if that ever comes, he could become a Hall of Famer. Buffalo Bills, Jim Kelly. Josh Allen will one day take over this spot, but for now, Kelly is still the guy. The Hall of Famer made 5 Pro Bowls and 1 first-team All-Pro during the team's glory era. Of course, with Kelly and the 90s Bills, it's impossible to overlook them losing 4 straight Super Bowls, but on the other hand, making 4 straight Super Bowls is insane, and Kelly did his job well enough to win versus the Giants in 1990. He wasn't a great playoff quarterback and didn't play for that long compared to other Hall of Fame quarterbacks, but he's earned his distinction. Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton. A no-brainer here. Cam was never an elite passer, but before Lamar Jackson, he was arguably the most impactful running quarterback in NFL history. He also brought a swagger and flair to a franchise that needed it. He made 3 Pro Bowls and 1 MVP in 2015 when he led the team to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, he ran into a legendary defense once there, and he never reached his 2015 heights again. But Cam will always be synonymous with the Panthers franchise. I just dabbed in his honor. Chicago Bears, Sid Luckman. The Bears' history with quarterbacks is so awful you have to go all the way back to when Hitler was still alive to find a time when they had a good one. Luckman is a Hall of Famer, a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time All-Pro, and 4-time NFL champion. He also made the NFL's All-Decade team of the 1940s. Imagine that, a Chicago Bears quarterback making the All-Decade team nowadays. Hilarious. Cincinnati Bengals, Ken Anderson. Basically a coin flip between Anderson and his successor, Boomer Esiason, but I went with Anderson due to more great seasons with Cincinnati. Anderson made 4 Pro Bowls and was named 1981 MVP, the same year he led Cincy to the Super Bowl against the 49ers, where he lost a heartbreaker. Anderson led the league in passer rating 4 times, passing yards 2 times, and completion percentage 3 times. Had Cincy won that Super Bowl, he'd probably be in Canton right now. Tough scene. Cleveland Browns, Otto Graham. Pretty clear choice here. Graham was basically the Tom Brady of his era in terms of winning championships. He made 5 Pro Bowls, 7 All-Pro teams, won 3 MVPs, and 7 rings. 4 of those rings were in the AAFC, but he then won 3 more rings in the NFL. He was a professional starter for 10 seasons and made the title game all 10 years. Individually, he led the league in yards 5 times, touchdown passes 3 times, and passer rating 5 times. Even if you think he was a product of great teams and coaching, he still got the job done. Remind you of anybody else? I think Cleveland fans today would take Graham's win-loss percentage from their current quarterback any day. Dallas Cowboys, Roger Staubach. Troy Aikman has the rings, but not the stats. Tony Romo has the stat, but not the rings. Staubach had both. The 6-time Pro Bowler and 2-time Super Bowl champion somehow was never named first-team All-Pro, despite his consistently excellent numbers and efficiency for his era. Staubach's volume totals aren't overwhelming due to the era he played in, and the fact that he got a late start thanks to his military service. Respect the troops, but he played a huge role in Dallas becoming America's team, and in addition to winning almost 75% of his starts, he played with a flair for the dramatic and was exciting to watch. Denver Broncos, John Elway. While I still think Peyton Manning is the best quarterback the Broncos have ever had in a vacuum, as far as career, there's no other option than Elway. Elway made 9 Pro Bowls, won 2 Super Bowls, a Super Bowl MVP, and was named Associated Press MVP in 1987. Debates about Elway's greatness still rage on today due to his numbers not being that great for a Hall of Fame quarterback, but the guy could play. 5 Super Bowl appearances will attest to that. Elway's career still remains more about potential, as in what could he have done if he had been in a better situation in his physical prime. We'll never know, but what we do know is that Elway knows how to slam back some beers. Am I right? Moving on. Detroit Lions, Bobby Lane. Matthew Stafford fans will be upset about this, but I had to go with Bobby Lane. Lane was known as a party animal who'd steal your girl. As for on the field, the thing that actually matters in this discussion, Lane was one of the best of his era. With the Lions, he made 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro teams, and won 2 titles as a starting quarterback. Although his playoff stat line of 1 touchdown and 12 interceptions is pretty horrific regardless of the era. In fact, ever since the Lions traded Lane early in the 1958 season, they've been a laughingstock of a team. Don't fuck with the blonde bomber. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers. One of the toughest choices of any franchise, as Green Bay has been blessed with 3 legendary quarterbacks in Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Rodgers. Starr won the most, but he just doesn't have anywhere near the quantity of Favre or Rodgers. Favre certainly had the quantity and won a Super Bowl, but also a lot of meh seasons and playoff disappointments. Rodgers himself has both the quantity and quality, as well as a Super Bowl win, although his playoff career outside of 2010 can only be described as a disappointment. Still, Rodgers gets the nod here for his legendary efficiency and 4 MVPs. It's just a shame he hasn't been more consistent in the playoffs. Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson. The youngest NFL franchise really came down to 2 choices, Matt Schaub and Deshaun Watson. Schaub is known nowadays for his pick sixes, but from 2007 to 2012, he was a good NFL quarterback when healthy. But the choice here is Watson. Watson was on track for an all-time great rookie year before getting hurt. Then he made the Pro Bowl 3 straight years from 2018 to 2020, as well as the playoffs twice. Watson was primed to become an elite quarterback for the foreseeable future in Houston, but his off-field habits ruined that. His NFL future is still in limbo as of this video, and his time with Houston is over. Real shame. Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning. With all due respect to Johnny Unitas, this was a clear choice. In his 13 seasons as the Colts starting quarterback, Peyton made 11 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pro teams, won 4 MVPs, a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP. Not to mention the shitload of stat categories he led in those various seasons. The Colts won 12-plus games under Manning for 7 straight seasons at one point. The only bugaboo with Peyton was always the playoffs, and his teams didn't win as much there as they probably should have. But the once hapless Colts were transformed into title contenders for a decade thanks to the Sheriff. Jacksonville Jaguars, Mark Brunell. Brunell's time with Jacksonville is kind of underrated if you ask me. He made 3 Pro Bowls, led the league in passing yards in 1996, and made 2 conference championship games. Nobody will ever confuse him for a Hall of Famer, but he provided an expansion franchise with stability and above-average production at the quarterback position for a prolonged period of time, and he deserves respect for that since it's not that easy to do. Just ask Tim Couch and David Carr. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. The choice here came down to Hall of Famer Len Dawson or the young wonderkind who has taken the league by storm over the last 4 years, and I went with Mahomes. At just 26 years of age, Mahomes already has 4 Pro Bowls, an MVP, a Super Bowl win, and a Super Bowl MVP. He's already made 4 AFC Championship games and 2 Super Bowls. Even after an up-and-down 2021 season, he is still the all-time leader in many quarterback efficiency metrics. I just hope his disappointing losses in Super Bowl 55 and the 2021 AFC Championship game aren't harbingers for the rest of his playoff career, since he's so exciting to watch. He should win 3 rings minimum in his career, and every year he doesn't feels like a massive missed opportunity. Las Vegas Raiders, Ken Stabler. Much like fellow good old boy Bobby Lane, Stabler played hard and partied hard here. But he was also the best quarterback the Raiders have ever had. He's in the Hall of Fame. He made 4 Pro Bowls, won the 1974 MVP, and a Super Bowl ring in 1976. He won 72% of his starts with the franchise, and also made 5 AFC Championship games. Unfortunately for Stabler, he had a lot of playoff heartbreaks, including the Immaculate Reception, and 4 AFC Championship game losses, including 2 to his hated rival Pittsburgh. Stabler's stats took a hit after he left the Raiders, but his stats with the Raiders still hold up pretty well today, especially his playoff stats. Gonna slam back a few beers tonight in his honor. Los Angeles Chargers, Dan Fouts. One of the toughest choices on this list was between Phillip Rivers and Dan Fouts. Neither had much playoff success and tended to implode in high-pressure situations, but in the end I went with Fouts due to a better peak. Rivers made more Pro Bowls, but Fouts made 2 All-Pro teams, whereas Rivers never did. Fouts also should have won MVP in 1982 over a goddamn kicker, whereas Rivers was never really in the MVP convo. Fouts also made 2 AFC Championship games compared to just 1 for Rivers. It's close, and on the right day I might be convinced to go with Rivers, but this might all be for nothing since Justin Herbert should take this spot one day if he stays healthy. Los Angeles Rams, Kurt Warner. Warner only started about 3 seasons for the Rams, but my goodness did he make the most of them. In those 3 years, he made 3 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, won 2 MVPs, a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP. He beautifully orchestrated the greatest show on turf to success. He led the league in completion percentage 3 times, touchdown passes twice, passer rating 3 times, net yards per attempt 3 times, and adjusted net yards per attempt 3 times. It's a shame for everybody outside of New England that he couldn't win that second ring in Super Bowl 36 against the Patriots, but what a 3-year run it was from 1999 to 2001. Miami Dolphins, Dan Marino. Bob Greasy made 8 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro teams, and won 2 rings, but he doesn't hold a candle to Marino. Marino, to this very day, remains one of the most respected quarterbacks ever despite never winning a Super Bowl. Bowl. It's not hard to understand why. He made 9 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams, won MVP in 1984 with arguably the best season any quarterback has ever had. When he retired in 1999, he held every single record for quarterbacks besides interceptions. He led the league in passing yards 5 times, passing touchdowns 3 times, and he did it all with a flair and arrogance that was endearing to watch. If he played today, there's no telling the kind of ridiculous numbers that he'd put up. Minnesota Vikings, FRAN Tarkenton. Tarkenton had 2 stints with the Vikings. The first was from 1961 to 1966, where he made 2 Pro Bowls before jettisoning off to the Giants for 5 seasons. When Tarkenton returned to Mini from 1972 to 1978, the team really took off. He made 3 more Pro Bowls, including winning the 1975 MVP. The Vikings also made it to 3 Super Bowls in this stretch, but they came away empty-handed. Like Marino, Tarkenton retired with pretty much every single record for quarterbacks. Tarkenton wasn't a great playoff quarterback, but his career and longevity is extremely underrated, especially considering the era he played in. New England Patriots, Tom Brady, just narrowly beating out Drew Bledsoe and Matt Castle for the honor. Brady's accomplishments and rings don't need to be rehashed again here, but I guess I'll do it anyway. Fuck my life. He made 14 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams, and won 3 MVPs with the Patriots, but those are all window dressing compared to the 6 rings and 4 Super Bowl MVPs he won with the franchise. Sure, as I've stated many times, I hated his style of play and how he always seemed to get bailed out in every big moment, but I can't change what happened, unfortunately. Hopefully he stays retired to become a full-time junk science salesman. New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees. I always looked at Brees as the unlucky version of Brady, since they were both Big Ten quarterbacks who played forever with a pretty boring style of play that put up huge numbers. The difference was that Brees almost always had terrible defenses, whereas Brady didn't. But enough Brady. Brees remains the best free agent signing in NFL history after joining the Saints heading into 2006. He ended up throwing for over 68,000 yards and almost 500 touchdown passes with the team. He won a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP in 2009. He made 12 Pro Bowls and an All-Pro team. Not bad for a guy who was seen as a risky signing at the time due to his shoulder. I think it worked out okay. New York Giants, Eli Manning. The choice for best Giants quarterback basically came down to Manning and Phil Simms, but in the end I went with Eli for his unmatched longevity and, of course, his 2 Super Bowl wins and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. That's really the story with Eli. He was never an elite quarterback at any point of his 16-year career. He had 2 magical playoff runs in 2007 and 2011, but went 0-4 in the playoffs in his other 4 appearances. He led the league in interceptions 3 times, but he also made 4 Pro Bowls and threw for over 57,000 yards and 366 touchdowns. It's fitting his final career win-loss record was 117 and 117, since that's really what he was, average. But helping to stop Brady from winning 2 more rings is much appreciated. Thanks, Eli. New York Jets, Joe Namath. Namath is a weird case of a guy who has been overrated for so long that he's kind of become underrated in some ways. He's arguably the worst quarterback in the Hall of Fame, but that doesn't mean the guy was a scrub. Sure, his stats look bad compared to quarterbacks nowadays, but Namath made 5 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro team, and of course had his famous guarantee Super Bowl win and Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl III versus the Colts. Individually, Namath led the league in passing yards 3 times and touchdown passes once. When he was healthy before his knees gave him trouble later on, he was an objectively good quarterback. Just don't leave your girlfriend around him. Philadelphia Eagles, Donovan McNabb. My favorite athlete growing up and the reason I became a Philadelphia Eagles fan. McNabb kind of gets forgotten about today because he never won a ring, but he was an elite quarterback for the better part of a decade. He made 6 Pro Bowls and finished his Eagles career with almost 33,000 passing yards and 216 touchdowns. He led the team to 5 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl appearance in 2004. He had his issues in big games and deserves some blame for the team never winning at all, but he was incredibly exciting to watch, and I choose to focus on all the good times he had with the team. Pittsburgh Steelers, Terry Bradshaw. That's right, I'm taking Bradshaw over the famous women respecter Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger has the better stats, there's no question about it, but that's largely due to the era he played in. Bradshaw got off to a brutal start in his career, which heavily influences his career stats, but his peak years were excellent for his era. He made 3 Pro Bowls and won league MVP in 1978. Bradshaw also benefited from the Steel Curtain defense, but Roethlisberger also had elite defenses for most of his career. The real reason I went with Bradshaw is that he was a better postseason quarterback and excellent in the Super Bowl. He won 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and you could argue he deserved a 3rd Super Bowl MVP in 1975. Ben was not great in the playoffs, and especially not in the Super Bowl. Don't let Bradshaw's moron act he puts on for TV fool you. The guy could play. He had a rocket arm, and he accomplished a lot. San Francisco 49ers, Joe Montana. Another coin flip between Montana and Steve Young. And a while ago, I might have sided with Young due to his superior efficiency metrics, but after further review, it has to be Montana. Much like with the Bradshaw-Roethlisberger debate, it largely came down to the playoffs. Young had a stellar 1994 postseason and Super Bowl MVP performance, but his playoff career outside of that year is very underwhelming. Montana himself had playoff struggles from 1985 to 1987, but he's still the best Super Bowl quarterback of all time by far, won 4 rings and 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and his career playoff stats are arguably the best ever on a per-game basis. Oh yeah, Montana also made 7 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams, and won 2 MVPs with San Fran, so it's not like he was a slouch in the regular season. Joe Cool forever. Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Wilson came out of nowhere as a little-known third-round pick in 2012 to become one of the NFL's consistently elite quarterbacks. Through 10 seasons, he's made 9 Pro Bowls and won a Super Bowl in 2013. He's famously never made an All-Pro team or gotten a single MVP vote, but that doesn't change how he's kept the Seahawks relevant as the Legion of Boom fell apart. Wilson has some of the best efficiency metrics of all time, and barring a sudden retirement or major injury, he'll retire with huge counting stats as well. He's going to deservedly make the Hall of Fame someday. I just wish he didn't throw that fucking pass to Ricardo Lockett on the goal line in Super Bowl 49. Why'd you do that, Russ? You really hurt me. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady. This selection speaks to both how good Brady was with Tampa, barf, and how bad the rest of the Buccaneers' history with quarterbacks is. Quite simply, Brady put up 2 monster statistical seasons in Tampa and won a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl with Tampa, but his stats aren't close to Brady's. Then you got guys like Jameis Winston, Josh Freeman, Doug Williams, and Vinny Testaverde, who can't be seriously argued over Brady either. It is what it is. God damn it, Jared Cook, why did you have to fumble that pass? Tennessee Titans, Steve McNair. A real tough choice between Warren Moon and Steve McNair. McNair made 2 AFC Championship games and a Super Bowl, whereas Moon never even made an AFC Championship game. But McNair's playoff stats are worse than Moon's. McNair won co-MVP in 2003, whereas Moon never won an MVP. Of all the choices on this list, this is the one I'm least sure about. 2 have almost identical production with the team, and in the end, I guess I'll go with McNair because he had people thinking Jeff Fisher was an elite coach for a while. The Washington Commanders, Sammy Baugh. I feel a little dirty picking a guy who played primarily in the 1940s, but Baugh was so unbelievably dominant, and Washington has never really had any other great quarterbacks outside of Joe Theismann for a few years in the 80s and Sonny Jurgensen, who never won anything. Baugh made 6 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams, and won 2 championships as quarterback. He led the NFL in completion percentage 8 times, passing yards 4 times, touchdown passes 2 times, and passer rating 3 times. He's also arguably the best punter of all time and had 31 career interceptions while playing defense. He's one of the few real old-timers I say could hang in today's league. No offense to Aaron Hernandez.